It's late, but anyhow, happy holiday season to everybody. It's an unbelievable, challenging time, this pandemic and all. But anyhow, I guess thanks to technology, we can pull this off. But I wanted to.
Manny, Manny, can I interrupt just to say that I started the recording, so everybody needs to be informed that we're recording the meeting, and we actually post the recording on our website. Thank you. Okay, Manny, sorry.
So no swear words or nothing vile, okay? Because it's going to be recorded. We don't want you to have that in cyberspace forever. But anyhow, everybody looks good on the screen that I'm looking at, except for Norm. Norm looks okay, but everybody else looks great. I'm just kidding, of course. Let's call the meeting to order. And how about a roll call, PJ?
Okay, Chairman Sanchez,
Here.
Miss Andolino, Mr. Bobbins,
Here. I see she's here. She's muted, but she's here.
Rosie's here, but she's
Who
muted.
is?
Yeah. Rosie.
Miss Darling,
I'm here. Good morning.
okay, Miss Rooney, Coco, Sudek.
Here. I'm here.
The only one we seem to be missing is Trish Rooney. Okay, we have a quorum.
Michael Ford is here too, Maria.
Okay, very good.
Oh,
Hey,
I'm sorry,
Michael.
Michael. I checked you. Michael, my apologies. I
No
already
problem.
checked you because I saw you. Sorry.
Don't you dare, Miss Michael, please. Anyhow.
I know, right?
Before we go on, what I wanted to do was to introduce our newest board member, and that's Coco Sudek. And am I pronouncing it correctly, Coco?
You are. Thank you.
Coco, would you please, it's a tradition, just say a little bit about yourself to your fellow board members, and welcome to the Illinois Sports Facility Authority Board.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, although I'm dismayed about the warning about not swearing. So I'll try and. Cool. The mayor didn't inform me that I had to refrain from that. Can't. My name is Coco Sudek. I'm a lawyer. I'm a business lawyer. I specialize in helping people make things and money. So I represent businesses, and I also do a lot in art law. So this board seems to have cornered the market on art lawyers because Leslie Darling, an old friend of mine, I'm joining her on the board. So that's fun. And I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm learning about the ISFA and all of its challenges and its opportunities and its statutes and staff, and I'm just looking forward to this first meeting.
Very good, Coco. Well, welcome. You've got a terrific board. I've said this for a long time. Per capita, I think the best board in the state of Illinois. But anyhow, that's my biased opinion. Everybody should have received the September 17, 2020 minutes. If you haven't, take a moment, take a peek at it, and if you're so inclined, I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes of September 17, 2020.
And
I'll make that
Man,
motion.
Okay, who was that made the motion?
Norm.
Norm.
Okay, and a second? We have a second? Okay, who made the second?
Leslie Darling.
Leslie, thank you. I love that. Thank you, Miss Darling.
I
Thank
need to
you.
take a roll call of everybody.
30
I have to remind you that we have to roll call vote.
Leslie Darling or Manny Darling or whatever, but that's your last name. So Leslie, you got a great last name. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes of September 17, 2020 signify by saying aye.
Manny, because we're holding the meeting remotely, all actions have to be by roll call vote.
Okay, well, all right, thank you, Council. All right, go ahead, start, PJ.
Chairman Sanchez,
Yes.
Miss Andolino, Mr. Bobbins,
Yes.
Miss Darling,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Miss Rooney, Miss Sudek.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, very
Okay,
good.
Rosie, I believe, is on mute somewhere.
I'm back on, PJ. Can you hear me
She
now?
just got
Okay.
back. Okay.
All right, the only one we're missing is Trish again, and I sent them an email.
Okay, very good. Okay, PJ, you have circulated the ISFA board meeting dates, have you not?
Yeah.
All of the board members?
Yes, we have to post meetings by December 31st by law. So these are the ones we have selected for 2021. I'd appreciate it if you could all take a look at them before the end of next week and let me know if they work. If they don't work, give me alternatives because we need a quorum for all meetings.
Very good. I'd like to go down to tab
Manny,
6. Yes,
could I ask you, before we go, I'm trying to get a list and I can't get it of who all the guests on the phone are. So I don't quite know
Okay.
who else. I have some faces and not some faces, so.
Okay, so we have from outside the organization, Maca Scott, who is from the White Sox. She's in John Corvino's office, and John Corvino is also on the line. We have Tim, Marty, and Moria, who I think must be from SMG. Hello? Tim,
Yes,
Marty.
it's SMG, ASM Global, correct.
Okay. And then we have, there they are. Thank you. And then we have 312-445. Those are auditors, Manny.
Well, that's just John Fadis. I think there's two other people trying to connect as well. Kevin Bissell
I just got one of them in.
and Hilda Renteria.
And Ms. Renteria, I think is already in as well.
Excellent.
okay,
Okay, that's who's in the meeting.
all right,
Anybody else that I missed?
okay.
Hello?
Hi, this is Steve Lux. I'm from the Chicago Park District.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Steve is on the line as well. Sorry, Steve.
No problem.
And Julietta Simi Park District.
Okay,
Okay.
All right, let's go forward.
okay, very good. If you go to tab number 6, the Chicago Park District. Maureen, let's talk about resolution 21-03.
Yes, we have the Park District here along with the management company for the Park District, and they are putting through their capital budget for 2021, and they're here to answer any questions if anyone has any questions about it. It is the below the stipulated amount that they can request. All line items are if the budget is approved, all line items are approved as they're listed here. If they want to move funds around between board items, they can do that. But if they want to add a new item, it has to come back to the board for approval. So you're approving the total and their allocation to those line items.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion to approve resolution 2103, a resolution approving reimbursement for certain capital improvements to be undertaken by the Chicago Park District?
You know, I had some, just a couple of questions about this.
Well, first, before we get to discussion, can we have the motion and then the second, then we'll get to discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Someone want to move it? Okay, Coco's moving it. Is there a second?
Norm seconds it.
Okay, Rosemarie seconded. Now, discussion. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I just, cognizant of our financial situation and looking at this list of projects, it seems that some are clearly essential, and things like fire safety and the other safety related items. Some are a little more aesthetic and maybe less essential, and so I'm just wondering, to what extent, if at all, we can defer any of these expenditures.
Maria's on the phone. Legally, what are
Okay, okay, under Mike, under our agreement with the Chicago Park District, we are required, is Dana talking?
Go ahead, I hear you.
I can't hear who's talking.
You are.
Okay.
No one is.
Okay, under our agreement with the Chicago Park District, we are required to set aside a certain amount in a capital fund account. And then, secondly, the Chicago Park District is supposed to submit a one-year capital plan, and for which they plan to make expenditures for and be reimbursed from that capital fund. That fund requirement is under the agreement. If it's a capital expenditure on the site, it really is required to approve it. Michael, if now the capital fund is supposed to be funded after debt service, operations, amounts of money we might owe to the Chicago White Sox, and then it's Chicago Park District from hotel tax revenues that are coming in from the advance amount and the subsidy amount. In the event that there's not enough revenues, we're not required to make the deposit. But for this amount, this was approved, the amount that's being deposited this year was approved in the budget for 2021.
Any questions, Michael?
Well, so the fact that it was approved in the budget doesn't mean we have to do it. If it's a contractual obligation, that's a different story, of course. And so I'm not, is what you're telling me, Maria, that we have a contractual obligation to do this, or just that this is what we already budgeted, so this is what we're doing?
There's a contractual obligation to approve expenditures as long as there are capital expenditures on the site, to the extent there's sufficient revenue.
And you're telling me there are sufficient revenues? I haven't looked at the math.
Well, there's revenues and there's also reserves that we are holding under the contract with the Park District. So if there's not enough revenues, we can also make move amounts from the reserve to the
Michael,
account.
there is actually a reserve for the Park District that we have built up that's allocated. So even if we don't have sufficient in a given year to cover it, we're able to cover it by having putting money away in the past.
Okay. And Norm, that's what you think is advisable in this situation?
I think it is advisable in this situation. Without getting into this in depth, I think a year from now might be a different situation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have the concerns I stated, but candidly, I don't know the finances the way that Mr. Robbins does, and so we'll
Michael, I'd love to take you through the deal with the Soldier Field and the Park District. Suffice it to say, they have a wonderful deal.
Any other questions? Rosemary, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I think to build on what Mike was talking about, and as we look at the list of projects, some do look that are necessary safety, security, and then some look as they're a little bit more cosmetic, like I know we need to upgrade furniture and fixtures, etc. But knowing, Norm, based on your statement just now, that next year may not be looking as good, and we may not have the money. Is this actually the projects that Steve and the Park District really want to move forward, or have they really thought about the fact that next year may not produce the revenues that they're going to need? So do they need to modify their projects for the use of this money to focus?
Let's let the Park District speak to this. They're with us because I believe we are probably reimbursing them for expenses they've already incurred, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yes, Norm, you're correct that some of the projects are reimbursements, such as the scoreboard, which is being paid over multiple years, which is $800,000. And we've vetted this with the Bears, and we do believe that this is important to maintain the stadium.
Steve, can somebody, if you're not speaking, can you mute yourselves? Because I'm getting a lot of feedback and getting a lot of trouble hearing.
If you're not speaking, please put your mic on mute. Okay, go ahead, Norm, we're gonna say something.
I was just going to say is that this list has been vetted with the bears, and we've gone through it with our manager, ASM Global, and we do feel that these are, very important projects. And to Norm's, or I think Rosie's comment, that there are several of these are reimbursements for things that we've paid for years ago, such as the scoreboard, which is a project that was $27 million, and we're looking for a reimbursement over multiple years. So, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or discussion? Yes, go ahead, Coco.
So this is probably a question of ignorance because this is my first meeting, but will there be a report provided to us and the taxpayers about how much the materials in this capital plan were sourced from local sources as opposed to outside the city and the state?
So to the best of our abilities, we always try to use local vendors. Some products are just, you can't get locally. So take a field tarp or a grow cover. Some we just have to go outside of for industry standard to maintain that. But I would say probably 8 out of 10 of our projects typically are the labor. It's always a local crew, local materials, local companies. We try to do our best on that. That's important to us as well on our end for our obligations to the park district.
For the record, that's Moira talking.
Pardon?
For the record, was that Moira on the?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, that's Maura O'Connor, Director of Operations at Soldier Field.
Very good, thank you.
Does that mean there will be a report on item by item?
Yeah. Submission process. Hi, hello, it's Marty McAndrews, Director of Finance and AGM for the building as well. Every submission that we put in for when we put in for a project has the details behind it, which is reviewed by Maureen and her team as well. So they see all of the invoicing and bills that go through for each project. So that's a running tablet that goes along for each of the project years that we do.
Is that made available to the ISFA board and the taxpayers?
It's foiable. It's foiable for everyone, but there is no per se report on local versus outside vendors. But I think that'd be easy enough for ASM to put together on a monthly basis or whenever they submit their draw.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, one last thing. And Steve, I did notice that you have the LED retrofitting on lights, and I'm not sure if that's to be done. But Maureen was very successful in the reimbursement and some of the monies that we received for redoing our lighting, and were available for some monies and reimbursements to the stadium as well. So if you guys haven't done, if you with the Park District and Maureen can discuss what we do and the success we have on rebates, I think that would be beneficial to everyone.
This is Tim Lefevre, the General Manager. Thank you for that comment. We are working with ComEd. We've had a number of discussions with them. It comes down to our monthly wattage usage. And so we're going through programs right now to reduce it so we can get into the incentive program.
Thanks, Jim.
But able to, if you guys could take it offline, I think there'd be a good conversation to ensure your success in that.
Thank you, Rosemary. Any other discussion?
Rosie, could you take a look and see if you have your phone and your both on? Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Can you hear okay?
A lot better. Okay.
I'll log off and log back in.
I don't know, you have to do that. It just went upside down. But anyhow, yeah, I don't think, just muting it is fine, Rosie. Okay, if you're not speaking, just be on mute. Tim, thank you. You made the last comment. Any other further discussion? If not, I'm ready to entertain a vote. Okay, well, it's been moved, it's been seconded. We've had discussion on resolution 21-03, resolution approving reimbursement for certain capital improvements to be undertaken by Chicago Park All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying by roll call, aye. And if it's not aye, then say nay. But right now, go ahead, roll call, PJ.
Sharon Sanchez,
Yes.
Miss Andalino,
Yes.
Mr. Bobbins,
Yes.
Miss Darling,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Miss Rooney, Miss Sudek.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Only
Very
one
good.
we're
It
missing
passes.
is Trish.
Okay. It's unanimous. It passes. The next item is tab 7, the 2021. We have an informational report from Maureen, and then we'll get to resolution 2104. Go ahead, Maureen.
Okay, we are in the process of a few of the projects that we've condensed our budget to go through. The air handling units, we need a new chiller on the right field side. The left field side got a new chiller last year. That is part of our project. Bids are out. We're looking to get bids back on Friday to get that going. Then we can defer the other. We've got 4 chillers. We would have a new chiller on each side, and then as needed, we could probably defer the 2 backup chillers at a later date when our budget is stronger. The concrete and waterproofing repairs is just chasing our leaks and our bed joints and correcting that. Video surveillance is also ongoing. That's just more of a process to enhance our access control and our cameras that are getting older. They're in their 7-year term. We just keep replacing them and keeping them like new and in warranty. LED lighting. We're still going forward with this. There's a lot of lights that are past that are no longer supported by anything, and we get large rebates for doing that. We're looking at the offices this year. One, because the offices are staffed at 80, at less than 20% now. It's a good time to do that, and our rebates will be significant on that area. So we're just looking at projects that are going to be our bang for our buck this year. And we feel that the LED lighting would be that one. So we're conscientious to going through there. We're gonna put a bid out next week for various areas, and then we're gonna pare that down as seen to see what fits into our budget on that one. Security is the major construction going on right now. That will play into our Safety Act certification. Whereas we're moving a driveway and putting up barriers around the perimeter of the park. It is phase 3 of this project, and it will move us forward for the Safety Act certification, so that that limits our liability in case of an event, so it's good for the ISFA and the Chicago White Sox. So that's where we're at right now. With our projects that are ongoing at this time.
Okay, Maureen, could you speak to the Oh no, I'm sorry. Was there a question, Rosemarie? Did you have a comment?
Yeah, just more based on the question that Coco had earlier. Can you just highlight the fact of your process in ensuring M and WB participation, please? Because you've been successful in that as well.
Yes, we had a lot of bidders that came in. We do a walkthrough for, just to say, for example, our HVAC work here. We had 10 to 12 firms come in, and I detail with them that it's the lowest responsible bidder, and the responsibility part of that bid is their MBE, WBE participation in this project. So that if you're neck and neck with the lower bid, that MBE, WBE will take over and win you the bid. So we're very upfront with that. We have 25 and 5% goals. 5% is the WBE, we ask each company to meet or exceed those goals as they can do that. So, and we suggest different ways that they can do that. And we've been successful at hitting. I think we're at 30. Last year we were at like 32 and 8. So we've been successful each year in exceeding those goals.
Exceeded them. That's great. Any other comment? If not, would you speak to the resolution, Maureen, involving Commonwealth Edison and their easement?
Okay, Commonwealth Edison approached the White Sox and us to add a ATO, which is an automatic over switch, for the building that is north of the north building, the one north of 35th Street.
Okay.
There was an incident, I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before, where the power went out and the restaurant went down, the elevator, the escalator, and it took them 3 or 4 hours to get that power back on because ComEd actually had to come out to the building. Okay, the main building has this function, has this switch. It was installed when the building was constructed, but for some reason when this other building was constructed, it's not there. So it automatically, if the power goes out, service automatically transferred to this other line, and there is no interruption. Okay, so it's being installed at no cost to us. However, now versus when it was installed in the building, now there is a monthly fee for this service attached to the ComEd ATO that's being installed, and it's roughly $650 a month. And I asked ComEd, how that was done before, and she said it was a one-time fee when it was installed, when the building was built, and I'm assuming that ISFA paid for it. They were building the building, and it is, rationally, it is more of an owner's expense. You wouldn't want somebody coming into the building and then losing power during a game or whatever that building is functioning at in conjunction with the game to lose power at any time. So there's an agreement out there that we have to sign that says we're gonna absorb the cost of that. The other item with this is that this is a 6 by 6 foot 5 foot high box that's being installed by the transformer on 35th Street. If we wanted to relocate that, if we wanted it, if we wanted to relocate it like 20 or 30 feet away, it would be at a cost to us. And that cost would be, they just threw out ballpark numbers, so approximately $100,000 if we needed to relocate that. If we wanted to relocate it inside, then there's another cost because you almost have to build a ComEd vault type of a.
Why do we want to relocate it?
No, not at this time. We don't want to relocate it at this time. Okay. I'm just saying that future, if we did, Norm, we don't want to relocate it at this time. I just want to put all the facts out.
And if we did, because we have a need, we could decide then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely at a later date. It's close enough to almost the sidewalk that you could, build something just, off the sidewalk, and it wouldn't infringe on that. It would just have to be taken into consideration if and when we get to the point where we're going to develop that ramp area into something different.
Okay.
And now, Fran, you said it's on 35th Street. I mean, that's our gateway, right? That's the main access point into the neighborhood, into the field. So visibility wise, aesthetically, how is that going to look in terms of when people are coming in and out?
Well, it's green, so and there's bushes around it and such like that. It's in a green area, so you really don't even notice the transformer that's already there. So yeah, it doesn't impinge on that. The White Sox are fully aware of it, have looked at it, have agreed to it,
Good.
you know, so.
Okay, so then could, any other discussion on this resolution? I'm trying to remember, did I make, was a motion made and seconded on the resolution yet? Or did I go
No.
into discussion? All right, I would entertain a motion then for passage of resolution authorizing a grant of easement to Commonwealth Citizen identified as resolution 2104. Is there such a motion?
I move that we, yes.
Okay, Rosemarie moves it. Who seconds it?
Second, Michael.
Who was that?
Michael Ford.
Michael Ford, seconded, moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, can I just point something out?
Go ahead, Maria.
On the form for the grant of easement, because it's a discussion exhibit, it includes a signature block that includes an attestation by the secretary and the notary for both of those signatures. I talked to ComEd and their legal counsel about using just the plain signature box with Manny executing and then notarizing that for purposes of recording the easement. So I just want to let the board members know that. Thank you.
Okay, all right, noted. All right, all those in favor of that resolution, or the roll call, go ahead, PJ.
Okay, Chairman Sanchez,
Here, yes.
Ms. Andalino,
Yes.
Mr. Bobbins, Ms. Darling,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Rooney, Ms. Sudek.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good. Okay, now we'll move on to tab item number 8. ISFA audited financials. Dana, as of June 30, 2020. Take it over.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
As a result of an RFP, as you guys know, from 2019, the CPA firms Mueller and Company and Prado and Renteria were selected to perform ISFA's audit for a 3-year period with an option to renew. They performed the fiscal year 2020 financial audit and are here to speak briefly about it. And but before they do, I would like to make sure to remind you guys of a few things relative to the financials, the audited financials. ISFA's financial statements are not prepared on a universal U.S. generally accepted accounting principles basis. Rather, they are based on the bond indenture basis of accounting that's set forth within the bonds. So there's a variance between the two bases of accounting. And because the financials are not prepared in accordance with the GAAP, what we call generally accepted accounting principles, ISFA has received an adverse opinion, but that is because of the fact that it is very different. When they declared an opinion for ISFA based on the bond indenture basis of accounting, then we received a clean opinion. So our financials materially conform to the way they're supposed to in accordance with the bond indenture. So I just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know that before I give it to the auditors to talk very briefly about this year's audit and their findings and any issues that they had. So go ahead.
Well, thank you, Dana. This is John Fadis. I'm the relationship partner at Mueller, and with me today is Kevin Bissell and Hilda. Kevin Bissell with Mueller and Hilda Renteria from Prado and Renteria. Just want to thank you, Dana, and your team for all their help throughout the audit process today. There's 2 different handouts, I believe, the audit report and the required communication letter, and I'm going to pass it over to Kevin, and Kevin's going to guide us through the report with Hilda giving commentary on some of the sections as well. Kevin?
Thanks, John. So we are presenting the financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2020. And as Dana mentioned, these statements are prepared on the combined bond indenture basis of accounting. The audit was performed by Mueller and by Hilda and her team from Prado and Renteria. So I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the more important parts of the statements that I believe everyone has received. On pages 1 through 3, that's the independent auditor's report, and that's basically our addition to the financial statements. The report states that we have audited the financial statements of the authority as of June 30th, 2020. It goes on to talk about the responsibilities of management and the auditor. As far as management's responsibilities, management is responsible for the preparation and the fair presentation of the statements in accordance with the authority's bond indenture. This includes the design and implementation of internal controls related to the preparation and the presentation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatement. As far as our responsibilities as auditors, our responsibility is to express opinions on the statements based on our audit. And we conducted our audit in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards. This requires that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the statements are free from material misstatement. This involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about amounts and disclosures in the statements. And the procedures selected depend on our judgment and our assessment of risks of material misstatement. As part of that process, we consider internal controls relevant to the statement preparation and our assessments. And that's so that we can design appropriate procedures, but not to express an opinion on the effectiveness of those controls. Also during this process, we evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies, estimates, as well as the overall presentation of the statements. On page 2, that is where our opinion on the statements is located. And as Dana mentioned, as in prior years, there's an adverse opinion on the statements in accordance with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. And that's because statements are prepared on a basis of accounting other than U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. In our opinion, the report goes on to say that, in our opinion, the financial statements of the authority are presented fairly in all material respects at June 30th, 2020, in accordance with the authority's bond indenture. The report also goes on to mention some of the other information included with the statements, as well as some prior year comparison information. Moving on to pages 4 and 5, this shows the assets of the authority at June 30th. It also presents some prior year comparative information. And as we can see, cash and cash equivalents were up approximately $4.5 million from June 30th of 2019. The increases primarily were in the Comiskey Park and Soldier Field capital improvement funds. As we can see, hotel tax revenue receivable is down significantly from 2019 due to the pandemic. The receivable was $16.9 million at the end of fiscal year 19, as $1.6 million at the end of fiscal year 20. You can also see interfund receivables are down from last year. Primarily, there's no amount due from the general fund to Comiskey Park capital improvement fund this year, and it was about $4.7 million last year. We can also see long-term assets were up from the prior year, and that's primarily related to some ongoing stadium improvements. Liabilities are presented on pages 6 and 7. As we can see, the accounts payable are up from last year, primarily in the Soldier Field Capital Improvement Fund. Long-term liabilities are up $22.4 million in total, and this relates to the debt issued to refund some debt from a prior year. This is also reflected in the equity section. The principal amounts, where we see the principal amounts of the bonds retired from refunding, that increased $30 million. Fund deficit increased $1 million in total, and the decrease in the revenue fund balance somewhat was offset by increases in the general fund and the construction fund. Moving on to pages 8 and 9, that's where we see the revenues and expenses. Hotel tax revenues for the year are down about $16 million, again, due to the pandemic. Other revenues are relatively consistent from 2019 to 2020. And as far as expenditures, fiscal year 2020 reflects the issuance costs of $2.3 million related to the issuance of the new debt. Capital improvements in the Comiskey Park and the Soldier Field capital improvement funds were both higher than in fiscal year 19, and about $2.7 million higher in total. Pages 10 and 11 of the statements show the other financing sources and uses. And this is where we see the issuance of the new debt of $147 million and the related transfer of funds to the bond escrow agent of approximately $146 million. That's reflected for fiscal year 2020. Interfund transfers are also presented on this page, and these transfers are based on existing agreements as well as requirements of the authority. Moving on to the notes. The notes to the statements begin on page 12. And the notes really provide some good information about the organization of the entity, the establishment of the funds, as well as some of the accounting policies. And as Dana mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the statements are presented on a basis of other than generally accepted accounting principles. And page 18 shows some of the difference between GAAP, as we call it, and the bond indenture basis that these statements are presented under. So I wanted to mention that. Some other footnote highlights that I wanted to mention. On page 28, there's some information about the cash and cash equivalents at June 30th, and wanted to mention that cash is fully collateralized at June 30th. On page 31, there's some discussion about the new bonds that were issued in 2020, provide some information about the sources and the uses of the new bonds that were issued during the year. And page 36 discusses some of the impact that the authority is facing regarding COVID-19. So I wanted to mention that as well. The remainder of the statements provide some additional fund analysis that provides some more detailed information about what I've already covered, but just wanted to mention that there is additional information there for your review as far as comparisons for each fund between actual, current year activity as well as budgeted results for the funds. So that's basically a summary of the financial statements. There is another letter that was issued along with the statements, but before I turn it over to Hilda, I wanted to find out if there were any questions about the statements.
Any questions? If not, you can turn it over to Hilda.
Okay, Hilda is going to present the conclusion letter that was issued along with the statements this year.
Hilda, are you on mute?
Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot to turn off my microphone. So good morning to all of you. I'll be presenting highlights of certain communication to those charged with governance required by our professional standards. The complete content of this communication is included in the letter that Kevin mentioned. The letter is addressed to the Board of Directors and is dated October 26, 2020. Since Kevin already touched on the auditor's responsibility and management's responsibility, I'm going to cover other highlights of that communication, starting with accounting estimates. The most sensitive accounting estimates affecting the financial statements relate to the historical values of long-term asset disposal. The financial disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management in performing and completing the audit. There were no disagreements with management. We requested certain representations from management that are included in the management representation letter dated October 26, 2020. To our knowledge, there were no consultations similar to obtaining a second opinion about audit or accounting matters with other independent accountants. Our discussions with management and our responses occurred in the normal course of our professional relationship, and they were not a condition to our retention. And finally, supplementary information, which was the last point that Kevin covered, that accompanies the financial statement, is appropriate and complete in relation to our audit of the financial statement. So those are the highlights that I wanted to present, and I'll now turn it over to Kevin for our closing.
Thanks, Hilda. So this concludes our presentation. I wanted to thank Dana and her team for providing all the information again this year in a complete and timely manner. The audit went well this year. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. And again, thanks to Dana and her team. So are there any final questions about the statements or the conclusion letter?
If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the audited report. Can I have such a motion?
Yes.
Okay, who said that?
Norm.
Norm.
Norm, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Coco seconds, moved, seconded. All right, roll call.
Chairman Sanchez,
Yes.
Ms. Andalino,
Yes.
Mr. Bobbins,
Yes.
Miss Darling,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Miss Rooney,
Yes.
Miss Sudek.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good. PJ, make sure that the record reflects that board member Trish Rooney has joined us and she's on board. That's great. Welcome.
got it.
Sorry for being late.
Excellent. We're now moving on to tab number 9, the fiscal year 2021 ISFA op through September 30, 2020. Dana.
Okay, good morning again. As you know, as we all know, we're in the midst of COVID, and COVID has devastated the tourism and hospitality industry. And ISFA has fallen prey to that devastation. When we look at the report as of year-to-date September 30th, 2020, we are doing fine in comparison to budget. But when we look at the previous fiscal year, when we specifically look at hotel tax, we are down at September 30th by 90.7%. And that has an impact on our ability to repay the state advance at the end of the year. And as we'll go back into we can go into the state advance. What you all know that we approved a chairman's certificate. Well, Coco, you're new, but in the orientation, we talked about the chairman's certificate. So the chairman's certificate was issued this at the end of the fiscal year of 2020 for 2021, and we are basically supposed to pay that advance back at the end of the year. Otherwise, the city is on the hook to the extent of the deficiency. So we believe that based on the way that COVID is moving, we will probably have a deficiency at the end of the year, that the city will be on the hook for. We're consistently looking at revising the revenue, the hotel tax revenue estimate to see what the future impact will be. But and I'm not concerned too much, because I am concerned about the repayment, but I have faith that there'll be a vaccine. But the corrective effect on the economy, however, won't be enough to make sure that we are impacted favorably in this fiscal year. So we're not expecting to fully recover at any point during our fiscal year. We're hopeful that by 2022, the end of 2021 fiscal year, the end of 2022, we will have some sort of recovery, but we don't know.
Remember, our fiscal year isn't a calendar year. It's June 30th.
Correct.
So that's why this gets a little.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. So what we're looking at is our state advance is not performing is a little slower coming in than what we've anticipated and what we've seen in the past. And that has not been a big problem for us because we do have ample hotel tax reserves that we're using when we have that issue. So our debt service requirements are being funded. We are not in jeopardy of that at all. So that's something to make sure that you understand that that's not an issue. We do have ample reserves to get us through this fiscal year, as well as with the amount of state advance that we're receiving along with the subsidies.
Yeah, as you know, Dana, this is Manny. ISFA's been frugal in building its hotel tax reserve to cover obligations for such a time as this. Only I had hoped we'd never have to visit it, but we are. I think because of the way we have handled it in anticipation of this possibility, the frugality of that approach is paying dividends in spades right now. Anything further, Dana?
We are, we are looking to contain our costs. So we've got a lower amount of construction projects that are going on this year. We've got savings in operations costs this year. We do have some increases in our commercial insurance for the fiscal year, but that is something that cannot be really offset. So we're monitoring everything, and I'm keeping abreast of all that's going on. We're talking to the city, we're talking to the state, we're trying to figure out the best way to try to mitigate an impact at all. As much of an impact as we can for this fiscal year. It's just that COVID is really making this difficult, and the length of time of the recovery period and the length of time that it's taken to kind of even get an attempt for a resolution is taking longer than we expected. So,
Dana, if you were to summarize, it's the uncertainty of 2022 that has to keep you up at night, not what's going to happen in June of 2021.
correct. That is correct.
Because nobody knows the answer to this, how things are going to bounce back or not.
True.
And right now, I'm concerned about having enough reserves on point for July of 2021's debt service payments. So those are the things I'm concerned about right now. I'm not as much concerned about this year. It's unfortunate that the city may be impacted, but that's not something that we can resolve on our own. So we just have to make sure we have enough reserves of cash on hand to make sure that we can move into 2022's fiscal year and still be able to move forward.
Any other questions or comments or questions of Dana? Okay, if not,
Coco, welcome to the board.
Go ahead, Norm. Sorry. Coco, go ahead.
I just said welcome to the board.
No, I was just acknowledging. This is a challenging time to be joining the board, but
yeah, this is what it's all about right here.
Timing is everything. All right, number 10, tab number 10 is the continuing disclosure policy. It's resolution 2105, a resolution to amend the continuing disclosure policy. It's attached to behind tab number 10, and I would entertain a motion for passage of the resolution to amend the continuing disclosure policy. Take a look at it if you haven't behind tab number 10.
It's pretty perfunctory. There's SEC resolutions that we have to comply with in connection with the bonds that we issue that require us to make continuing disclosure on a year-to-year basis. The previous policy did not pick up on some amendments that were made in 2019, and so we're amending the policy to include that. And going forward, you're actually delegating to your disclosure manager the ability to make those changes so that if the SEC regulations, whatever, the disclosure manager can go ahead and make sure that we update the policy to include those amendments and requirements.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions about the continuing resolution to amend the continuing disclosure policy, resolution 2105? If not, let's have a vote by roll call. PJ. Oh, I'm sorry. Coco.
I want to make a comment, but I hadn't heard a motion.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You can.
So I'll just so moved. Yeah, so moved.
Okay. She's moving it. Who's seconding it?
Leslie Darling, second.
Leslie seconds it. Moved and seconded. Now discussion. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question. So was there ever a problem under the old policy? I did see that there were some provisions added that seemed completely appropriate. Has there ever been a problem under the old version of the disclosure policy?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but thanks, Maria, for clarifying that. Okay.
Roll call?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, roll call. Go ahead, PJ.
Chairman Sanchez?
Yes.
Ms. Andolino?
Yes.
Mr. Bobbins?
Yes.
Ms. Darling?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Rooney,
Yes.
Ms. Sudik.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're now at that part of the agenda on public comment. Do we have any requests that have been made, Maria, for public comment?
No. Or PJ, do you have any?
I have nothing. I've not been contacted by anyone.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said I've not been contacted by anyone.
Okay, very good. Well, before we adjourn, I would like to announce that I will be tendering my letter of resignation from the board as chairman effective tomorrow. And I wanted to share with my fellow board members what a thrill, and with the staff of ISFA, what an honor it's been for these last 6-8 years to work with and for ISFA, and to work with the White Sox, and to work with everybody associated with the Illinois Finance Authority. Coco, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to get to know you better, but hopefully going forward, I'll still get a chance to do that. But I wanted to let you all know that that is something that I am doing by the end of the day tomorrow. And so please know that we're going into a strange holiday season, probably different than any we've ever experienced in our life. I don't know about you, but my Thanksgiving was a 2-person Thanksgiving instead of a 12 or 15 person, and I suspect that Christmas may be similar. So to everybody, be safe, be healthy, and please know that I love all you guys, and I look forward to continuing to cheer on the White Sox and to maintain a solid, strong relationship with all of my ISFA board members. Thank you.
Manny, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your leadership and the job you've done. You really have done a fine, fine job in the most
Thank you,
difficult
Manny.
circumstances.
Yeah, thank you, Manny.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, you guys. I'm looking at you. If I could, I'll give you a virtual hug and know that I care deeply about all of you. Enjoy the holidays and God bless. Let's and go White Sox. I see Corvino finally showed up. He was there, but I just didn't see his photo. Everybody enjoy the holidays. I don't want to get too emotional on this. Trust me, I love the White Sox. I love ISFA, and these past years are beyond explaining how the gratitude I have for the service as chair. Love you guys. Enjoy it. I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Manny, for everything.
Okay, thank you.
I guess move to adjourn.
Yes. Everybody hung up? With all the
Nice to
excitement.
meet you all.
Thank you.